Hello YouTube. Been a while since I've been able to make a video. I have been taking footage and I will be editing together something in the near future. But this is just a quick one. I had a request from a subscriber that he's intending to make patterns and cast up some hangers. So he was asking me for some measurements, and I don't have a great collection of hangers, but I just actually these rusty looking components I just purchased the other day, yesterday in fact. So now I can show him a little bit of variety, and here's what I've come up with as far as the measurements go. I'm going to set them on this graph here that I've made that's, well, not the most accurate thing in the world, but it's probably close enough for what he's doing. And you see I've got the measurements here. It's roughly 18 by 16 inches. And then I went ahead and drew these lines here, so those should all be about 1 inch square, give or take about a 16th. For a casting, that ought to be okay. And just show some of these in a little more detail. So we'll start out with this one here, and as you can see, you know, it's you got this top piece or bottom piece, depending on which way this is mounted, and you have 4 set screws for adjustability. And we'll show the type of bearing that went in there, and as you can see, it's split. And it's been babbited. You have a wick, and then there's an oil trough under it. And the wick draws oil from that trough and oils the journal. So that's one style, and that style came with these. So we'll go ahead and set this on here. Now this is for a 1 inch shaft. So you can see how that's constructed. See, it's about 2 inches wide. And I'm dirtying up my graph. Anyhow, and that would be probably considered a little bit of a newer style. And we'll put the hanger on there. Try and line it up good. So you should be able to screenshot this and have pretty well all of the dimensions that you need, or be able to figure them out. Go ahead and set this way. This looks a lot wider than it is. It's actually a little bit narrower. As you can see, if I set it kind of that way, or I guess I gotta turn it. You can get it all on the graph there. Well, anyways, so that ought to be enough for you to come up with something if you wanted to do this style. There were other styles of main shaft hangers, and you know, you gotta remember too, that was for like a 15/16 to a 1 inch shaft, so you would want to scale this up if you're using larger shafting. Yeah, here's another style. This is a countershaft hanger, not a main shaft hanger, and it is one of the ones that came with my south bend. So yeah, you see, and so this all lines up on the same plane basically. And this would be a pretty simple one to cast up, and we'll go ahead and set it that way. Kind of get an idea of how big that is. And that had a 1 1/8 shaft running in it, and it goes with this counter shaft here, which you've seen in previous videos. Sorry for the shakiness of this. I'm trying to hold this phone pretty steady here, but doesn't seem to be working out so great. And here's one of the bearings for that one, and you see it's a different style of bearing. You have a oil trough cut in the top. It's a single piece. There's a keyway cut in it to receive a felt, which is not in there right now. And the felt helps distribute and filter the oil, keep dust and things from getting in there. This is just plain cast iron, and it's been drilled and reamed, and that works perfectly well for many years. Makes a good long-lasting bearing as long as you keep it oiled. You see there's a divot here on one side for the set screw to hold it in, and then there's a little lug here that presses into a receiving part of that hanger. I didn't quite show that, but you see it presses into there. There's kind of a little bit of a V cast into there. So that's another style, and that was one that came with my 13-inch South Bend lathe here. And here's yet another style that's similar. It's maybe slightly larger in size. I can line that up. Okay. And you see, you know, the difference is that this is squared. There's also a little bit of a lug down here, and we'll get to why that might be there in a minute. But very similar style, except rather than have a little V cast, you have a little pin that's been set in there, and just set this on here this way. So you can get a better idea of the size of the base. And again, notice how these taper. From the base to the top or bottom. Anyways, really this is the bottom and this is the top, because it would be hanging this way with the wall, or with the ceiling up here. Anyhow, so that's another style. And this is kind of interesting. I just bought this yesterday. The other one has a label on it actually for, you can't read it, but it actually says California Saw Works, which is a company that's still in business. So, and here's one of the bearings for that one. This is also for a 1-inch shaft. And you see this is even a little bit older style. You just have two little oil holes here. And let's see if I can get a shot of this. Get over near the light. Yes, if you see in there, there's a groove that's been chiseled in. Notice it doesn't go all the way to the end. you know, and that's just to distribute oil, and nothing went in there, no felt or anything. So, got a little divot here, and one on the other side. And again, this is another just plain cast iron, which is perfectly fine. Plain cast iron running on steel makes a great bearing that lasts a very long time. The spindle on this little 9-inch South Bend is made that way, as many other smaller lathes. So I like to call this the barrel style. And that would be a really simple pattern to make. You could scale it up or down. And you know, it looks like a little barrel, kind of. Okay, so back to the lug. Another thing that we used to have is these little oil boats, which would mount on the bottom, like so. And that's just to catch the oil. That's all that does. Keep it from dripping on the floor. They did these in different styles. Some were kind of like the shape of a upturned Twinkie, which probably would have went more with this kind of a style hanger, or this kind of style. Sometimes they just had them where they had a little fork coming up and a pin would go through and hold it in place. These ones would have been drilled and threaded and just screwed on a little stud. And you see, this is actually a raw casting. It's never been used. So that still needs to be, I don't know if you can call it machined. It needs a hole drilled and tapped. And the same with the hangers that go with those, which are a really old style. These are more of an 1870s style. And they're larger. Let's see if I can get it on my scale here. And that is really just a work of art, you know. It's just beautiful. We would have had a similar bearing kind of a setup here. You have rather than a squared or flat-ended pin, you have a point. And you probably would have had another pointed set screw coming in here. These were castings I bought from a gentleman that he never did get around to. He's not gotten around to using them. They're just kind of spares. And they were cast from some original 1870s hangers. And these are a little bit larger, a little bit of a larger size. So you got about, say about 3.5 inches or so base width. Yeah, those really are beautiful. Yeah, these would have been for a little bit of a larger machine. I plan to use these on a 16-inch lathe that I have that's not yet traveled over here. Yeah, so that's about what I've got to say on those, and I hope this helps you. You know, if you're going to be making the patterns for these and having them cast up, that's really an admirable endeavor. You know, it's no small task to go about all that. Here's a few other odds and ends I got. Here's a typical style shaft collar that you would have seen. It was also cast, so you know, you could probably come up with something that will look very similar. Pretty simple to make a pattern like that, I would imagine. Here's a shifting fork. It would have shifted the belt back and forth, and that would have mounted, of course, on on the shipper rod that runs through these arms, and of course there's a pair of them. There's one style that has a rib in it. If you did this style, you'd need 2 patterns, because you need one for each side. Here's another style that lacks the rib, and as you can see, if you were to use this style, it would only take 1 pattern, and you could cast both forks with that same pattern. So that's kind of nice. You know, whichever way you want to go. These are brackets that attach to the shipper rod and then attach to your shifting stick. You know, which would be, you know, here's one right here that would go up to the ceiling, and then you could reach it from the floor level. Operate the machine. And you know, here's another one here. So this would have attached about here and pivoted. Then this would attach at some point up above, and moving that back and forth. You get the idea. So that's one style. That's kind of a little bit newer style, maybe 1920s or so, or even in, you know, teens. Here's another one that's kind of a little bit of an older style, but it's the same thing. Goes on your shipper rod, connects to your lever. So those are some of the basic components that I have right now that I can give you measurements of, or I hope I've given you enough to get the measurements that you need and produce some patterns. Again, this is another pulley that was cast, but it was never machined. So that's going to be a fun machining project. It's a 14-inch pulley. And thankfully I can machine that at work. I've been doing some work on this stuff at work lately. Got that shaft straightened out and refaced the pulleys, and I fabricated this, or I'm in the process of fabricating up this pulley. Here's the hub for it, and that was made out of an old truck axle, so this portion will be cut off and faced, and it's got to be finished board and bolted on there, drilled and tapped for a set screw. Pretty simple. This is just made out of clear pine, and that was reclaimed from an old bed frame, and I carefully milled it down and glued it all together. So anyhow, you may notice a new surroundings. Yes, I've had to move shop recently. I haven't made a video in a long time. There was a death in the family, and there's just been a lot going on that I don't really feel like getting into at the moment. But new house, new workshop, better than the last, and can't wait to have a bunch of belts and pulleys running all over this place. Looking for new machines, or rather older machines, and actively working towards building the Lineshaft machine shop. You know, it's not something that happens overnight, but I'll get her done eventually. And I can't wait to put those beautiful, beautiful, beautiful hangers up. They really are. Just, you know, they don't make stuff like that anymore. Anyhow, I hope this has been helpful to you, and thank you for watching. I'll have some more stuff coming up in the future here. I'm gonna go ahead and get this countershaft mounted up pretty soon. That's what this is all about, and plumb lines. And going to mount that little short line shaft up. That's going to be put right up here on the edge of the loft until I can get a main shaft to go up here in the ceiling. And I'm still searching for that. I need about 17 foot of shaft and 4 hangers. So anyhow, I'm gonna go ahead and get back to working on some stuff, and I hope you all have a good day. Thank you for watching, and thank you and hello to all my new subscribers. If you like these videos, please do like them. Have any questions or comments, you know where to put those, and I guess that about does her.